you were sent to help you investigate the investigators, you only filed 3 criminal cases. You only brought 2 cases to trial, correct?
Correct.
And you lost all the cases you brought to trial, correct?
Correct.
In fact, 2 juries acquitted your defendants on all charges. And the one conviction that you obtained, the defendant pleaded guilty to a single count that never went to trial, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Durham, you can hold yourself out as an objective Department of Justice official or as a partisan hack, and the more that you try to spin the facts and not answer my questions, you sound like the latter.
Oh, that's gotta hurt!
In case you hadn't heard, there was a hearing today, and if you listen close enough, you'll actually hear Jim Jordan screaming into a pillow at the result of it.
The Democrats will say, we don't care. It doesn't matter. We're never going to stop going after President Trump. In fact, 8 days ago, we saw how far they are willing to go with the indictment of President Trump.
Lewis and I are here today to set the record straight about this political investigation conducted on behalf of the twice impeached, twice indicted, former white supremacist in chief, Donald Trump. The investigation has been an attempt to undermine the findings of the Mueller investigation and distract the people of this country from Donald Trump's corruption. Simple point is getting lost. Republicans will do anything, say anything, and spend any amount of money to hide the basic truth that their leader is a criminal, corrupt, narcissistic buffoon.
The House Judiciary Committee hosted Justice Department Special Counsel John Durham. This coming about a month after he released a report highly critical of the FBI's performance during its, quote, crossfire hurricane probe into allegations of contacts between Russia and former President Trump's 2016 campaign. You know, that probe that led to countless convictions. But anyway.
The Mueller report found that Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort knowingly shared internal polling data and information on battleground states with a Russian spy. Did you find this to be untrue?
I did not find that to be untrue.
Thank you.
And this went exactly how you would come to expect a hearing held by the party of gas stoves and DC urination, disastrously for them.
Now, Mr. Durham, I'd like to ask you the following simple yes or no questions. Trump's former campaign chairman Paul Manafort was convicted, correct?
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that?
Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, was convicted, correct?
That's correct.
Trump's former foreign policy advisor to the campaign, George Papadopoulos, was convicted, correct?
That's correct.
Trump's former deputy campaign manager, Rick Gates, was convicted, correct?
Not in connection with the Russian matter.
All right. Mr. Durham, you can hold yourself out as an objective Department of Justice official or as a partisan hack, and the more that you try to spin the facts and not answer my questions, you sound like the latter. So I'm just going to ask this simply. Trump's former National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, was convicted, correct?
That's correct.
Trump's longtime advisor, Roger Stone, was convicted, correct?
I'm sorry, missed the last thing you mentioned.
Trump's longtime advisor, Roger Stone, was convicted, correct?
Correct.
In contrast to multiple Trump associates who were convicted, you brought 2 cases to jury trial based on this investigation, and you lost both. And so I don't actually know what we're doing here, because the author of the Durham report concedes that the FBI had enough information to investigate, and thank goodness the FBI did, because multiple Trump associates who committed crimes were held accountable. And the best way to summarize what happened is thank you to the brave men and women of the FBI for doing their jobs. I yield back.
From the get-go, Democrats used their time to ruthlessly expose the bipartisan hackery coming from the other side. I mean, there was a moment that it got so brutal, specifically under scrutiny from Adam Schiff, that I started to feel bad for Durham, and then I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you read what's in the cable and what's in the report, is that what the diplomats reported was there was a suggestion of a suggestion that the Russians could help. They had damaging information as to Mrs. Clinton. And
by releasing it anonymously, right? And that's exactly what happened, isn't it?
I don't.
You really don't know?
I'm not sure exactly. When you say exactly what happened.
Well, the Russians released stolen emails through cutouts, did they not?
There were emails.
It's a very simple question. Did they release information, stolen information through cutouts, yes or no?
Yeah, I'm not sure that.
You really don't know the answer to that? The answer is yes, they did. Through DC leagues.
Well, in your mind, it's yes.
Well, Mueller's answer was yes. More important than mine, Mueller's answer was yes. Now, that information, of course, was helpful to the Trump campaign, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question, but that the Russians intruded into
Well, I just want to
hacked
get,
into the systems, they released information.
and that was helpful to the Trump campaign, right?
And the conclusion in the ICA and in the Mueller investigation was that the Russians intended to assist.
Can you answer my question, Mr. Durham? That was helpful to the Trump campaign, right?
Yeah, that's.
And Trump made use of that, as I said, didn't he, by touting those stolen documents on the campaign trail over 100 times?
Like I said, I don't really read the newspapers or listen to the news. I don't
Really,
find
you
all
were
that reliable, so I don't know that.
Mr. Durham, were you totally oblivious to Donald Trump's use of the stolen emails on the campaign trail more than 100 times? Did
I'm
that
not aware of
escape
that.
your attention?
I am not aware of that.
I mean, it was that bad that Fox News' own legal analysts couldn't spin it.
I think anything prepared him for this moment. And he looks about as comfortable as a Benedictine monk in a strip club. I mean, he has this look of disbelief on his face as he says, look, I reported the facts. You can reach your own conclusions.
And this is the same guy that spun Trump's classified document investigation as well. Maybe he could run on pardoning himself.
Trump could run on pardoning himself. You know, for people that feel that this is bias, that this is part of a pattern, he could turn this on his opponents and actually run on his right to pardon himself. So if he's elected, even if he's convicted, he could pardon himself, or he can do so before a trial occurs.
Yeah, the good old pocket pardon.
I mean, let's be honest. If the goal of this hearing was to elevate Democrats like Ted Lieu, Adam Schiff, and Cori Bush to the top of the Meidas Mighty leaderboard, then Republicans, well, they've succeeded. Otherwise, it was a complete and utter disaster.
Told us there was no proper predicate for opening the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, and maybe most importantly, he told us the FBI, the preeminent law enforcement agency in the world, failed in its fundamental mission of adherence to the rule of law.
Political investigation conducted on behalf of the twice impeached, twice indicted former white supremacist in chief, Donald Trump, from an attempt to undermine the findings of the Mueller investigation and distract the people of this country from Donald Trump's corruption. That's why it began just days after the release of the Mueller report. And that's why 4 years later, and no matter how much my colleagues across the aisle claim otherwise, the Durham investigation did not exonerate Mr. Trump or any of his associates.
Did it take 4 years to complete?
Correct.
Okay. And with all these resources and all these people you were sent to help you investigate the investigators, you only filed 3 criminal cases. You only brought 2 cases to trial, correct?
Correct.
And you lost all the cases you brought to trial, correct?
Correct.
In fact, 2 juries acquitted your defendants on all charges. And the one conviction that you obtained, the defendant pleaded guilty to a single count that never went to trial, correct?
Correct.
I will note that in that case, the primary investigative steps were all completed by Inspector General Horowitz. Perhaps you were better when it came to your report. From my reading, your report did not make any specific concrete recommendations to improve DOJ or FBI policies or procedures. In fact, your report repeatedly references the recommendations made by Inspector General Horowitz, almost all of which DOJ and FBI have already implemented. Again, your investigation lasted 4 years. 4 years and untold sums of money, and you still obtained only 1 conviction. You did produce a 300-page report, though, and that's given my Republican counterparts plenty of material to spin.
Hey, Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.